Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. We are getting ready to get started. I am Wesley Sanders. We are getting ready to get started with our mayoral debate forum. Want to very quickly bring on my co-host, the lovely and often always opinionated Pam Billingsley. What's up, Pam? Unmute your mic, Pam.
Just kidding. Hey, what's up?
Oh Lord Jesus.
I was
Okay,
here
we're
ready and waiting.
So what?
I was here ready and waiting.
All right. Still waiting on Aleia. Aleia is on her way. Aleia is on her way. This is our 2020 mayoral debate forum. We want to thank all of you guys for coming on. We want everyone to like, share, and subscribe to Real Talk for the Christian Walk. We want to thank everyone for watching tonight. Be sure to share this conversation, share this most important conversation that we're going to be having with 4 of the 5 candidates that are running for mayor of Macon-Bibb County. First of all, we want to thank everyone. We want to thank Rabbi Larry Schlesinger, who's going to be on with us. We want to thank Blake Sullivan, who's going to be on with us. We want to thank Mark Whitfield, who's going to be on with us. And we want to thank Clifford Whitby, who's going to be on with us. Lester Miller did reach out to us. He's not going to be able to join us tonight. He's celebrating his parents' 51st wedding anniversary. He had prior plans prior to the planning of this, but he sends his regards to the entire city. He's even in that he still tried to make it work, but he had prior plans before this was planned. So shout out to Lester Miller and his parents. Happy 51st anniversary to the parents of Lester Miller. All right. So Pam, how you doing over there?
I'm good. Regular old Saturday. It's Saturday work.
I know. All right. So we have our first guest who's ready and ready to come on. You ready to bring him on?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay. So about our first guest. Our first guest has done business in Macon for well over 20 years. He serves on several nonprofit boards around the city in Macon, including the Rescue Mission of Georgia. He was awarded as a Citizen of the Year in 2017 by the Macon Chamber of Commerce, and he was also recognized as the Volunteer of the Year in 2018 by Keep Macon-Bibb Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Blake Sullivan with us. Mr. Sullivan, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Good. Thank you very much, Mr. Sanders. I appreciate you having me tonight and hosting this forum.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we don't want to prolong the time. We know your time is very valuable. We don't waste it. We don't want to waste the time of yourself as well as the people of Macon-Bibb. So we're going to give you this platform to tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your personal background, your professional background, and your plans should you be elected as mayor of Macon-Bibb.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. And again, I grew up primarily in Columbus and LaGrange, Georgia. My father was in the textile business, and I went to public school all the way from kindergarten up to high school. Graduated high school and then went to University of Georgia. My dad fell on some hard times the last semester, and I went to Columbus State and finished up. And then I went and got a graduate degree at Duke University in Durham, North Carolina. I moved to Macon in 2001. I'm in the timber business and a lot of other businesses as well. My wife's family was from here, and we moved here, like I said, in 2001. My dad always told me it's important to give back to your community, and I've always tried to do that. I've held leadership positions in a lot of big organizations, large and small, everywhere I've lived, even where I went to school. And so when I came to Macon, I threw myself in to try to make this community a better place. And so I've done that for the last number of years. I had to work hard to get my kids out of high school to college, and now they're both out on their own, and so I have some more time to devote to some volunteer activities. I started out working on our public schools, primarily because we were in the midst of having serious problems with our superintendent. And I believe public education is key to making Bibb better. And so I threw myself in something called the Business Education Partnership, and I worked hard in that, rising to be co-chair with Dr. Curtis Jones. And we implemented a leadership program called The Leader in Me. I raised about $2.8 million to fund that in every school, every public school in Macon-Bibb. The last 3 high schools will go in this year. And why is that important? It's important because when we teach our kids leadership skills, then school has a purpose. And it is that they can find a career or a job or something that they want to do later on in life. They don't just go to school because their mom or dad tells them they need to. And I believe it's having a big impact on our school. Our graduation rates are going up. I've been pleased to be a part of that. During this pandemic, I saw where our small businesses were getting hurt. And I set up a fund called the Macon 30-Day Fund to give out forgivable loans to small businesses. We've helped over 62 small businesses to date. I raised over $119,000 to do that. And I've been grateful that we've been able to help our small businesses survive during this pandemic. So I'm a man of action. And when I look at my community, I know we can do better. We are so divided geographically, racially, socially, economically. Parts of our city are doing real well. North Macon, downtown, and parts of South Macon. Other parts of our city, there's a lot of hopelessness there. And I believe that through my leadership skills, I know how to lead this community and help us get financially back on sound ground, and also help us heal as a community, get better where we can be more united. I believe if we do, we can be one of the best cities in Georgia. And that's why I've committed to running for mayor of Macon-Bibb.
Okay, so good stuff. So let's go forward with the first question that we have for you. So myself, I'll ask the first question, then Pamela asks the second question, and so on and so forth. So tell us, Mr. Sullivan, what is the thing that you love the most about Macon-Bibb County since your time being here? What's the thing you love the most?
What I love the most, we have some amazing people that live here in this community. I love that we are a center of art and music. Just such a rich history of music in this town. I like to say that music is the one thing that unites us. We have such a great musical heritage here. I also like our community because we're centrally located inside the state. We have great transportation, railroads and airports and interstate highways. We have world-class universities that are here and technical colleges. We have one of only 2 level 1 college centers in Georgia. And I believe we just have all the we need to be a great community.
All right, Pam, go ahead with the next question.
All right. What are your thoughts on whether or not a hate crime bill should be in Georgia? Why and why not?
Yeah. So we have federal legislation on hate crimes right now. And so the events of the last month and a half really brought out the fact that we have some people that have acted awfully, in my opinion. The Aubrey case down in Glenn County, and of course the Floyd case up in Minnesota. Both of those were unbelievable turn of events that we had, and they're both repulsive to me, what happened. In the first case, we had a bunch of vigilantes get out there and basically hold this gentleman hostage, and then they killed him. And then up in Minnesota, we had a police officer, a rogue police officer, or several of those, actually kill another man who cried out for help. It's just shameless. We all want justice. I think our community and our nation has demanded that, and I believe we'll get it. I believe that justice will be served, but the wheels of justice turn often slow. And as much as we want resolution today, I don't think we get that as quick as we want it. As far as hate crime legislation, I'm for that. We get into a place where it's up to our elected officials at the state level to pass that. Again, as mayor, I would support their efforts to come and find a bill that would make sure that when a heinous crime is committed, that people are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Okay, so Sullivan, let's talk about, let's delve deeper into crime, especially local crime. There have been approximately, and based on my research, this is dating back to May 8th, there's been approximately 20 homicide cases in Macon-Bibb County. And it's projected it could go up to 65, God forbid. But that's, of course, it's kind of hard to predict how this is going to go, but it's projecting based on the pattern of how things have been going this year, that it could go up to 65. So should you be elected mayor, what do you plan to reduce crime in the city?
Sure, thank you. First of all, I want to work on blight. Study after study shows that when we reduce blight in our community, that crime goes down. I want to hire more police officers, but if we can go to the root of crime and try to reduce it, first way is by tearing down houses. I've committed to tearing down the 2,200 blighted houses identified by the blight study within my first term in office. The second thing goes to education. And I believe that if we give our kids the right skills and give them opportunities to understand that conflict resolution does not automatically go to violence, that we can go a long way with that. So teaching leadership skills through the Leader in Me, I think, will help tremendously. I've already watched that. We had a young girl last year she stood up in front of a group of parents and they asked her, "What do you like most about the leader and me?" And she basically said, "I'm not bullied anymore." And so I think if we can bring down the level of conflict and teach kids how to deal with it, they'll carry that on into adulthood. I'll also say that we need to work harder on providing jobs. We have too many people with too much idle time today, and too much idle time. They have access to drugs or alcohol or any other thing, and that just throws gasoline on the problem. And then finally, we need more police officers. We are down about 100 to 150 officers, and we need to have more officers. And I just don't want to just hire them. I want to make sure that they live in the community. That's one of the problems we have today with some of our animus toward the police, is that they're not a part of the community. We need to do a better job getting them into the community so that people know they're there and they can report crime and maybe hit it off before it starts.
All right, so Aleia has joined us. Hi, Aleia.
Hi.
Okay.
I'm sorry, had technical difficulties.
Yeah, so we're gonna let Pam ask the next question, and then Aleia can ask the question after that.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
so just so you guys know, I'm just taking a few notes. So. Okay, so the next one is business comes to town, more than likely it goes to North Macon. Do you have a plan if you are elected to bring businesses to other parts of the city?
Sure. So part of the problem that we have is that businesses that want to locate in parts of our community are worried about crime and other things, and they want to be sure they can keep the people that come and do business with them safe. So part of this is we need to do a better job of policing our business areas. The other thing I want to try to do is to bring back more businesses that are essential to parts of our community. As you know, the closing of Kroger over on Pinona left a huge food desert for a lot of people. I like to say if you live in Unionville and you need to go get groceries, you have to walk down to the nearest bus station. Then you have to hop on a bus and go downtown to the terminal station. Then you have to transfer and either go out to Eisenhower or up to Forsyth, go to the grocery store, and then reverse the whole course and go home. It's too hard. And what I want to do is, we have offered some temporary tax breaks to industry to come and locate here. I believe that's a valuable tool to offer into our neighborhoods to get fresh vegetables and other produce and meat and other things like that back into our neighborhoods where it doesn't exist today. We also need to provide some financial services and do that in a way that people have access to their money and don't have to deal with payday lenders and the other thing that are out there. And then we need to recruit more businesses into Macon-Bibb. As a business owner, I know what businesses are looking for. They're looking for a trained workforce. They're looking for a good location, and they're looking for the right environment for them to be successful in their business. And we have places all over Macon-Bibb with the buildings already there. They just need to be used. And I want to be sure that we can channel people over to these unused businesses, because a lot of our community has a lot of retail and commercial space that's unused. And we need to make sure that we can drive some businesses over there so that they can set up and and be an integral part of the neighborhoods of Macon-Bibb.
Mr. Sullivan, if you are elected mayor, how do you plan to involve the community in the decision-making and the lawmaking process?
Good. Well, first of all, I want to involve the community. I want our faith-based organizations and our churches to be more active in our communities. As I've ridden them around Macon, there is a lot of hopelessness. And people just they want dignity. They want somebody who cares. And I like to say that we need to get out and we need to have our churches not asking people to come to them, but to have our churches go more into the communities to serve the people. And I was happy to be a part of a ministry. The Proudies have a ministry down in Unionville where on Sunday during church, they walk the neighborhood and they ask people for prayer. I can't tell you how impactful that has been on some people. I've watched a man get prayed over on the porch of his house, and he broke out crying because somebody cared about him. And we've got to do more of that. I believe that by doing that, having the community more involved in the people of our community, that creates communication and all the good things that go with it. It also breaks down racism. I was happy to be at Central High today to hand out food distribution site. And there were young, old, black, white, all kind of people that were there working together to do one thing, and that is to feed people that were hungry. And then in the decision part about laws and other things, I think it's very important for us to know what's going on in the neighborhood. Our elected officials need to be plugged in to everything that's going on. I plan to do that. I am not afraid to go into any neighborhood in Macon-Bibb and listen to the concerns and work hard for the people that are there. I've been to the Peach Orchard. I've been every place you could go to in North Macon, East Macon, West Macon, South Macon, you name it. I've been there. I will continue to do that to make sure that we serve the people that elect us.
Oh, my bad. Forgot to unmute myself. All right. So, Mr. Sullivan, so let's talk about taxes. Taxes are always an important thing concerning Macon-Bibb. So there's property tax and then there's sales tax. Property tax involves homeowners paying taxes on the property that they own, and then sales tax when you purchase goods and services. Both are purposed to provide revenue for the city. And on both ends, people have complaints about sales tax going up. If you drive the sales tax up, that drives up the prices of your goods and services. Driving the property tax up, not everyone is homeowners, so homeowners look at it like not everyone is homeowners, so you're dependent on me funding the city, like I'm like a small percentage of the Macon-Bibb population funding the city. So if you had a choice, if you had to raise taxes in one or two areas, if you had to either raise sales taxes or property taxes, which would you choose to raise and why?
Yeah. So let me just speak generally about taxes. I'm on record as saying that there will be no ad valorem tax increase without a referendum by the citizens. We have some of the highest ad valorem tax rates anywhere in Middle Georgia. And our sales taxes are about in line with what others have. If I were going to pick one of them over the other, I'd want to reduce property taxes down the most. And I'm going to tell you why. We have so many people that live outside of Macon-Bibb that come here to work. And if I can reduce the property taxes down, that'll flow back into the either mortgage or the ad valorem taxes that are paid on homeowners, or it'll flow back to the renters itself by reduced rental rates. And so I believe that'll be made up. There's a movement underfoot. It's been this way in the last couple of years of something called an OLOST, where penny sales tax will come on in return for a pretty significant reduction in ad valorem taxes. I support that. Unfortunately, our elected officials want to grab more and more of the sales tax and reduce the amount of the refund that would go back to property owners that would eventually be passed down to renters or businesses or any of that. I think that's wrong. We have enough income and enough money to run the government that we have. We're just spending it in the wrong place. And so we've got to do a better job. In fact, I went to the commission and the mayor back in 2018 and said, after I saw the budget and we almost ran out of money in 2017, I told them point blank, I said, you've got to change. I went in that commission room, I told them, I gave them some ideas about how to do that. And I said, you've got to be able to do that for our citizens. Well, they blew me off, and so that's one of the big reasons why I'm sitting here today. You can either sit there and take it, or you can stand up and try to do something about it. So here I am.
Awesome.
Okay, so is that okay? My question. All right. So if the city was given a $5 million grant, however you wish you could spend it, however, how would you spend it?
Gee, that's a tough one. I think what I'd like to do is to give part of that money out to be able to entice more businesses to locate in some of our poorer communities. And the rest of the money, I want to use that to get rid of as much blight as I could get rid of. And I want to encourage, see, when you get rid of blight, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. We can leverage more people to build houses and apartments in our community if the neighborhoods are stable. If we have blight in our neighborhoods today, nobody's going to want to build a building there. Nobody's want to build a house there. They want to go somewhere else where the neighborhood's nice and trash is picked up and it's not awful. And we've got to be able to remediate some of the blight in order to give not only hope to these to the homeowners and the renters out there, but also to encourage some more building in our community. We need some more houses. We need some more apartments. We need some more things that will serve our community. There's a waiting list over at the Housing Authority that, I don't know, maybe 3 or 6 months. That just shows the need that we have for housing today. And so I think that's what I'd like to do. First of all, use the money for the blight. I'd also like to use it to bring in businesses. And then I guess the third piece, if I have some left, is to be sure we pay our police officers and first responders a market rate. They're working for a lot less today because we're spending money in the wrong places. And we've got to be able to pay them the right amount of money so that they will get good officers and good firemen that work here. And I want to be sure that we can do that.
All right. We're down to the wire.
Okay.
So everybody wants to know, what makes you the better candidate for mayor?
Well, I think I'm the better candidate because I'm a leader. If you look at my resume, I've led all kind of organizations. I was head of the Forestry Association here in Georgia. I'm on the board of the Rescue Mission, the executive committee. I have served on the U.S. Lumber Coalition Executive Committee in Washington, D.C. I have run, I was chairman of the board of one of the schools at Duke University for 4 years. I've been a successful business person. I know what it takes to bring people together, and I know how to run a business. I guess the last thing I'll say is that I'm a strong Christian. I've taught at Sunday school and probably 30, 35 years. And I don't just teach it. The scripture says that we are supposed to walk the way that Jesus wants us to. And that means that we've got to go out and do things, not just talk about them. And so I like to say I have a heart for the poor, the down and out. Jesus said the 11th commandment, we should love our neighbor. And I love people and I care about them. And that's why I think I'm the best one to be mayor of Macon-Bibb.
Ms. Sullivan, on that last point, you really spoke on why we call our show Real Talk. Because it's not just about talking about it, it's about walking it out. So we appreciate you saying that. Thank you for sharing your heart with us, Mr. Sullivan. Real quick, before we let you go, let the people know how they can find more information about you and how they can get connected to your campaign.
Absolutely. So you can go to my website, BlakeSullivan2020.com. You can find me on Facebook, Blake Sullivan 2020. You can find me on Instagram and on Twitter. And I look forward to interacting with anybody with other questions or whatever you might have. And most importantly, on Tuesday, I would appreciate your vote.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Sullivan, thank you so much for sharing your platform with us. And good luck on your quest to become our
Thank you so much for having me. And God bless you in your work. And thank you for having me tonight.
All right. All right. All right. So that was Mr. Blake Sullivan. So let's talk about some of the takeaways that we got from Mr. Sullivan. He wants to be passionate about reducing crime. He's passionate about reducing blight in the city. He wants to reduce property taxes. And he has a heart for people. What did you guys get out of it?
Yes, what I got. You summed it up. He has a heart for the people. And, I agree with what you said. Those were the main takeaways I took away as well.
Well, I like that. He wants to bring business back to Macon, and that he wants to see some of the communities that don't, that the businesses are afraid to go to. He wants to actually do something in those communities so business would want to come back. So yeah, I like that. That was good.
You like that money talk.
All right. Before we bring our next candidate on, just want to remind everyone, if you haven't voted early as of yet, if you have not voted early as of yet, June 9th is the date where we want everyone in Macon-Bibb to vote. All right. June 9th is the date when we need everyone to vote. I am a firm believer in the fact that if you don't vote, you have no right to complain about what
Amen.
In your
That's correct.
This is why we put together this forum tonight, so you can hear directly from the candidates, and you can hear their heart, and you can hear where they're coming from directly. If you haven't done so already, please like and share this broadcast tonight, this mayoral forum tonight. We need to make sure everyone knows what our candidates are standing for. Out of this group, including Mr. Miller, who was not able to be on with us, will be our next representation for at least the next 4 years. So we need to hear from these people that want our vote. All right, let's bring on our next candidate. Y'all ready to bring on the next candidate? All right, let's bring him on. About our next candidate, he has he worked as a tennis coach, so he has served his community, and he also previously worked on campaigns for such as C. Jack Ellis, Chuck Shaheen, who served as mayor in Warner Robins, Darren Lee, who served as a councilman in Warner Robins, as well as David Cook, who is presently the district attorney. Ladies and gentlemen, our next candidate, Mr. Mark Whitfield. Let's welcome Mark Whitfield to our mayoral forum. Hello, Mr. Whitfield.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing great.
Doing well, Mr. Whitfield. Thank you so much for being on with us today. Thank you for agreeing to be a part of this mayoral forum tonight.
Yes.
All right, so Mr. Whitfield, we're going to give you an opportunity to share what's on your heart. Let us know your personal background, your professional background, and why you feel you're the best person to be the next mayor of Macon-Bibb.
Okay, first I want to thank you for inviting me to this forum and to give me the opportunity to speak with the people of Macon-Bibb. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Macon, Georgia. My parents are both born and raised here. My dad lives here, my mom in Unionville. And I spent most of my time as a youth in Unionville. Grew up Catholic, went to parochial school up until 10th grade in Mount DeSales. It was very expensive, so I decided that it would benefit the family for me to transfer to Southwest, which I'm thankful for that decision. So I'm a proud graduate of Southwest High School. From there, I went to Howard University and ended my academic career at Mercer University with a degree in finance. Excuse me. The reason that I entered the race is because I looked at the city of Macon and the problems it has. And I had the financial background, and I had the proven track record of knowing how to create innovative ideas, create programs, and create strategic business models to help Macon-Bibb grow years ago, and I can do it again. I know exactly what to do. I have a plan in place. I thought it through, and I know I have the best solutions and the best equipped to lead Macon-Bibb out of what I consider 50 years behind and take us into the future and make us the metropolis that we should be.
All right, Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Whitfield. I'm sorry, Mr. Whitfield. By the way, I'm not going to hold the fact that you went to Southwest against you. We're not going to hold that against you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
In this forum. Not going to hold that against you. God bless.
One other thing I think you asked for is a professional background. So let me get a professional background. I've been in.
You on here with 2 Northeast graduates, so I mean.
But okay, don't hold that against me. I'm gonna leave something out. I'm a Southwest grad, right? So I'm good.
Oh boy! All right, Aleia, we're not gonna hold. We can't hold the fact that he went to Southwest.
Well, it's okay.
We were great back then, and I enjoyed those days. It was some of the most happy days of my life. So I feel for you. I feel for you.
Boy.
But let me get to my background real quick. I spent 35 years in banking, finance, and investments. I retired from Wachovia Bank after being there for quite a few years. And after that, I did mostly business consulting. And after I had an opportunity to come back and look at the state of the city, and now it's consolidated Macon-Bibb, I was very concerned about the state of the condition of the way people were living, the poverty, the lack of opportunity. and the segregation, the racial divide. That's something that disturbed me greatly, and I know how to make that better and actually resolve it in the end, but it's going to take time.
All right, so Pam, go ahead with the first question for Mr. Whitfield.
Hold on 1 second. My phone locked. Okay. What do you love most about Macon-Bibb outside of Southwest? I didn't go to Southwest. I went to West Side. So what do you love most about Macon-Bibb?
What do I admire most about Macon-Bibb?
Mm-hmm.
The people. I admire the people the most because, I grew up with them, and going to Mount DeSales, going to, St. Peter Claver, going to Howard University, going to Mercer, I had the diversity, in my background, and a lot of it was from the very beginning, going to a Catholic school, growing up Catholic, it gave me a different perspective. And when I went to Southwest, that gave me another perspective of that. So what I found is that everybody is the same. They all have dreams. We all have desires. We all have fears, anxieties. But especially being in banking, I could see that. I can see that everyone had the same issues. And that's trying to bring their family up to a better quality of life. And there's a variety of ways based on the where you are in life, the poverty level you are, or the education level. So, but still, everyone still had the issues of family and trying to have a better quality of life. So the people in Macon, that's what I love the most. That's why I came back, and it's all the people. So that's what I love about. Of course, growing up with being a Southwest Patriot and all those state championships and all that, I enjoyed that as well. But the main reason is that I just love Macon. I love the people in Macon, and we have a lot of history and culture here, and I want to share that with the world.
Okay, Mr. Whitfield, you keep bringing up this good how you graduated from Southwest and state. What year did y'all win state championships again? What year were those?
I'm not going to create more problems for myself. So I'm just going to leave that alone.
But you're a good politician, Mr. Whitfield. You're a good politician.
Good answer.
All right, Aleia, go ahead.
I wasn't a politician. I used to put people in office. Now this is the first time that I'm doing it myself.
Okay.
I'm green.
Yes. So in the midst of everything that's going on, you have the protests going on, and we want to know, what are your thoughts on whether or not a hate crime bill should be in legislation in Georgia, and then why or why not? Why or why don't you feel it?
Okay. Yes, a hate crime bill needs to be passed, and it needs to be done soon. The recent tragedies of a lot of brutality cases, last being Mr. Floyd, shows that no matter how many times you protest, how many times it's broadcast, across the nation, across the world, it happens again and again. So it just seems like there's something that we can't control. We can try to do a better job at vetting officers before they're hired. I think it starts there. But the hate crime can be done by anyone at any time. So we need to have that legislation in place, at least to have a deterrent for hate crime taking place in Georgia. The reason, that I was happy to be a part of the protest is I had an opportunity to see the diversity that was there and at that protest from all ethnic backgrounds. And they all wanted the same thing, was that they wanted African Americans to be treated better with respect to law enforcement and how they're treated by law enforcement. So I think, right, as a matter of public policy, the youth show that that's not acceptable to them. So now that we have youth being involved in the voting process, youth being involved in the protest that was peaceful to Macon, and I'm proud of them for that. It's time for us as leaders to pass the bill to make sure that if this happens in Georgia, someone's going to be prosecuted to the maximum of the law. And we have that bill in place to cover crimes that are dealing with hate.
All right, Mr. Whitfield. Now let's talk about businesses, which kind of ties into jobs. Normally, when a new business comes to town, we don't even have to ask. We already know it's going in some part of Macon when a new business comes to town. Now, this one is personal for me because I've lived in East Macon all my life. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm tired of having to fill up my gas and go across town anytime I want to go somewhere decent. So, if you should be elected as mayor, do you have a plan to that will attract businesses to other parts of the city other than North Macon?
Absolutely. And that's one of the first things we're going to do is have Macon-Bibb designated as an enterprise zone. An enterprise zone is something that qualifies you for federal funding to address the very issues you're talking about. It's for funding in impoverished areas, areas that are underdeveloped with respect to business, areas that we can have entrepreneurs who are normally not entrepreneurs that give them an opportunity to become entrepreneurs. And that will help the blight. It will help with development of East Macon and South Macon. And furthermore, it gives us the funding to expand, businesses. We can help businesses grow. And that's what an enterprise zone is. And it's probably meant for places like Middle Georgia, which means that it's an enterprise zone. And it means the resources are there to make us a metropolis. We have, of course, the rail, we have the interstates, the highway, we have the Monkey River, we have, and now Amazon, and we have a major regional airport. So we have the ability to create revenue. We have the ability to generate a lot of revenue through strategic planning. And one of the things that I want to do is I want to become a host of athletic events, especially youth athletic events. That's $1 billion industry in this country. And I think after this COVID issue of being isolated and children being isolated and not having an opportunity to have, graduation and other activities, it's going to be a bustling time, once this recovers. And youth activity is going to be, great. So I think that's one way we can bring in business is to host tournaments and variety of them, where it's cheerleading, gymnastics, softball, flag football, soccer, football, basketball. So there are many ways we can bring in revenue. A lot of cities do it. Orlando is a perfect model. It creates hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue for that city. We can do the same. We have a regional airport that we can bring in teams. We can bring in scouts directly. It creates tourism. Now the tourism is generated from people visiting here, from the activities that we have for the youth. And now that helps small businesses. Small businesses will grow. It creates opportunities for new businesses. And once we do that, we can now start focusing on other areas of expanding the airport and get additional funding for expanding the airport, because now we have more funding available for us because the revenue is showing there. So it's the progress of the city. It's the proof that we have the ability to generate revenue and grow. And now the federal funding can come in place more for the airport. So that's the way I see we can grow. And that's my plan initially, to get us going in the right direction to help restabilize small businesses, help our new business owners have, a venue, and also supply, the people to be able to purchase items from those vendors. Also, we have the youth, a lot of talent here, so I want our culture exposed. I want our youth to have an opportunity to display their talents and even, season performance as well. But we have that here, and that culture, I want everyone to know that. And we just lost an icon, a world icon. And he is, just amazing. Then we have, of course, we had James Brown, Otis Redding, and other people here, but those families are still here. You know, the Otis Redding Foundation is still here. We have Mercer now that's you know, has a program that's, you know, wants minorities involved with their orchestra. So we're growing, you know, and we have the right mindset to now embrace, you know, this change that's coming, to prepare for the possibility of getting revenue from places we never got it before. And I think right now, it's the time to have the right leader in place who has the vision to understand where we want to go. And I have that.
Awesome. All right. So Pam, you're next with the next question.
Okay, so currently there have been approximately more than 20 homicides here in Macon-Bibb. What is your plan to reduce crime in Macon?
Yeah, 27 murders, and every time I've been screaming, Black Lives Matter, no matter who pulls the trigger, no matter the source of the person who takes the life of someone. I don't want to see loss of life and see that as the norm. I don't see any outrage. I don't see any protests. I see young men losing their lives over and over and over. It's 27 times. And you had others who were, you know, injured, and their lives have changed forever. So you have families destroyed on both ends. And I think a lot of this is stemming from mental health issues. A lot of these young men have had very difficult lives, and they should have gotten mental counseling, you know, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, but they didn't. So we need to focus on two things with me right now for the future. And that is, one, identifying those young children who are having mental health issues or they need mental counseling, identify that and not put them in the system by calling a resource officer and now, you know, making things confrontational when it should be something that we help them. Second, keeping them grade level. And I've done my research, and I have a very good friend, Dr. Vaughn, who is helping me with this as well. If you keep a child grade level and all the way through the 12th grade, and on the reading level of 12th grade and the math level of 12th grade, it is very unlikely they will be in prison. And that's something that we need to focus on. So as mayor in my administration, I'll request parents to have the Board of Education give me permission to receive all names of children who are not grade level. And we will have a program in place to keep them grade level. And it will be a structured program. It will be 3 hours a day at the end of their school. And we will focus on whatever the weakness is, get them back up to grade level, keep them grade level. And during that time, we will foster mentoring. We'll assess them to see if they need mental health counseling. And we'll find out what their interests are, you know, so to see what they want to do and allow them to achieve. And finally, let them learn their ancestral history. We would have individuals, you know, available for that, because I think that's a key issue in addressing self-worth, and that will, you know, prevent the crime as far as property crime by youth. Now, with respect to crime by adults, we need a couple of things. One, workforce development, because a lot of these individuals are in a, you know, drug trade or something that's not productive because they have no skill. So we need to provide that workforce development for them as we did 20 years ago, and have that robust. Once we have that robust, when they can learn a trade such as heating and air, carpentry, brick masonry, that will allow them to have a decent living and have a living wage. That will prevent a lot of the crime that we see. The other is for the youth police activity, getting the youth involved with law enforcement. Back in 20 years ago, we had a chief named by Monroe who believed in community policing. I believe in that. So yes, we need to have more officers, but we need to vet the type of officers that we bring in, or law enforcement deputies, I think is this point. And we need to vet those officers because I want to put them in the community and let them become a part of the community, build a relationship with the community. And once we do that, that will also reduce the crime. Because in the PALS program, when we set that up back in 1999, my father was the first director of that, and I did the tutoring and mentoring in that process. Crime went down over 10 years by 40% for youth crimes and 20% overall. So that the police activity model works. So we need to bring that back, incorporate it to what the sheriff has right now, and that will help prevent crime.
All right. So the voice of the community is very important, and many members of the community feel like their voice is not heard, and some people even say they don't want to vote simply because they feel like their voice is not going to be heard. So if you're elected mayor, how do you plan on involving the community in the decision and lawmaking process?
Well, I can understand how the community feels because based on what I see, their voices weren't heard, and I think they got discouraged and just gave up. So what I want to do now, if you know, as the mayor, is one, by developing these programs, workforce development, by developing programs that will help with mental health issues, we begin to start relationships with the community. That's number one. You have to, one, care about the people, sincerely care about them, take an interest in their lives. Now, with respect to transparency, but I think that's the major question. I would have a transparent government. Of course, we have the open budget meetings. We will have committees. A community liaison is what I want. I know we need that, and they'll have that. I also will have a committee for small business owners, and we will make sure that they're connected to government, but mainly for the people. I want to make sure that we have an office that will handle issues, whether they're dealing with public safety, whether they're dealing with job opportunities, lack of training, any type of lack issues. Children who are in absolute poverty, and the parents need help getting out of that poverty. We're going to have an office, dedicated to that, dedicated to being connected to the people. So you have to be connected to the communities. So a lot of times communities have community leaders. They're these people who are really looked upon as being the person who represents that particular community. I want that back. And I want to identify those individuals and have relationships with those individuals, and bring, those individuals to us to discuss their concerns at least every quarter.
All right, Mr. Whitfield. Now let's talk about taxes. Let's talk about taxes in the city here.
Yes.
I want to focus on two forms of taxes in particular, property tax and sales tax. Those who pay property tax, should it be raised, have issues because, well, they say if I'm a homeowner and not everybody in the city is homeowners, you're basically dependent on me to help provide funding for the city. And when it comes to sales tax, which concerns the purchase of goods and services, if you raise the sales tax, then that subsequently means the price of goods and services in the city go up. And typically, those are the two areas where you see an increase in. Should more funding be needed for the city. So if you had to make a choice between either raising property tax or raising sales tax, what would be your choice and why?
I would choose to raise sales tax over property tax. The property taxes are extremely high in Macon-Bibb. So adding additional taxes, raising taxes on property tax, I think that'll cause two issues. One, you have people leave and not want to stay, and two, you will prevent people from coming. So we don't want either of those things to take place. Now, with respect to a sales tax that deals with either SPLOST or OLAS, I think in times like this, with the COVID situation, or in economic downturn that's significant, like in 2001, 2008, I think that's something that's reasonable. I think what taxpayers want to see is a return on the investment. And that's what they haven't been seeing. And that's why they're upset. And that's why a lot of them are leaving, or they're definitely upset with the amount of taxes they're paying because they don't see the return on the investment. And I understand that. They're tired of paying for the shortfalls in the budget. And especially when the budget, there are questions about how the budget is being used. And once you have an issue with how the county is handling the money, and you're paying high taxes already, that's going to cause a conflict. You're going to have unhappy citizens. So the sales tax, you have two evils. The sales tax is what I would raise over the property tax, and try to get a penny sales tax, to help us recover. And you don't want to raise taxes at all if you have the right revenue. So generating revenue is the answer to all tax issues, because once we do that, we can lower taxes, and we'll lower them significantly. Now we'll be able to attract, more homeowners, be able to attract more businesses, because once we generate the revenue, we'll be able to hire more people. Our workforce development will have more placement for employers coming in and be willing to take a chance on the people who we train. Expanding the airport, because of the tourism and the activity from the businesses that I want to bring in, and also the youth events I want to bring in. All of that ties back to regional growth with the airport, generating revenue for the city, creating jobs for our workers, especially I want to stabilize African-American men, especially if they need a second chance. And I think that's something that's overlooked. It's something that we have to handle, because I think if you can stabilize African-American male, get him a job with benefits that will give him credibility with his children, credibility in his household, then he can stop a lot of that nonsense with young men with gun violence. And, he can teach them that, hey, you have something to lose. This is how you handle conflict, not with a gun, but with, a sense that you have something to lose. So I believe firmly in that, and I'm going to make sure I focus on that. But again, with all the revenue that we can generate, throughout the strategic business models that we have in place and execute them the correct way, we'll be successful. And then once we have the vibrancy, once we have the youth, and we're getting our youth counseling and keeping them on grade level, that's going to translate over to the education system, and we're going to see a better academic performance. Our school system is going to rise, and we're not going to be in the bottom 14%. We're going to shoot for being in the 60, 75% range. Now we can bring in employers, and they'll be happy to come in and give us an opportunity. Because of the natural resources we have, and because of the workforce development, we'll have qualified workers to be able to fill their positions, and they will be coached. They'll know that we have actually trained these workers to be professional and dependable, and to value the jobs that they've received from these employers.
Okay, well, if the city were given a $5 million grant, and the power was in your hands to spend it however you wished, how would you spend the $5 million grant?
That's a good question. Well, I'll tell you where my heart is. My heart is with youth. So the youth is going to get some of that money, and I'm looking at 20% just off the top of my head. I would spend 20%, on our youth and maybe more. But I want to be able to have every child from age 5 to 18 to be involved in something that the county sponsors at our cost, that the parent doesn't have any cost, the child has transportation. We provide, mentorship. We provide opportunities for them to identify things that they're interested in, and we foster that, up until the time they're 18. And as I generate revenue for the city, I will be able to pay for that without anyone complaining, because everyone's going to be satisfied with the low taxes, the low crime, and we'll be fine, with the expansion of the airport. So the vibrancy of the city is not going to cause an issue for me doing what I want to do with respect to helping youth. So 20% automatically going to our youth, 20% going to entrepreneurs who want to open businesses in underserved areas. That's something I want. So I want the training. That's one thing. I want the opportunities to give them bridge loans. I want the opportunities for them to take business courses before they go into that business, to make sure that it's a viable business, that they're ready to go into business, and that they actually thought everything through. So part of having a successful business is knowing that you understand your business, knowing that you're in the right business, and that you have the right product that's for that market. Going into areas like East Macon, South Macon, that's where I'll push the other million. I want to do the 3 million in those areas because they're so impoverished, they're barren, there's so much blight. So I want, you know what? I think I'll keep $1 million out. So I'll do 2 million for that, and $1 million to help individuals become homeowners. I want to help them with down payment assistance, getting them trained, first time home buyers, have training for those individuals. Let them know all the grants that are available to them as being a first-time homeowner. Help bridge some things for them. So you move into a home, often there are other expenses they don't see, such as furniture, maintenance on bringing the house up to code. Just a lot of things they may not see that maybe $10,000 or $15,000. We can do that and have $1 million there to help subsidize our new homeowners. Wait a minute.
My turn.
Hold a second. I know y'all with the Northeast, so I broke it down in percentages. So let me go ahead and go back. The numbers so y'all know it's 5 million.
Aleia, he don't know we can mute his mic, does he? He don't know that.
We wouldn't do that. Okay, I think it's my go, right?
Yep.
All right. So inquiring minds want to know what makes you the better choice for mayor of Macon-Bibb County.
Well, one, I'm the most qualified. Two, I know Macon. I understand Macon's needs, and I know how to solve the problem. I have a plan in place. Now, I hope you understood my plan to make Macon a metropolis, to bring it into an area of prosperity. And I want to do this because, one, I love Macon. I grew up with people here. My family is here. My grandparents' family is here. And I was raised by this community. I have a lot of people here who were involved in my life through coaching, mentoring, just church, so I just had a lot of people help me through my lifetime, and I want to give back. Second, I'm the most qualified based on my financial background, especially dealing with investments. And when you get an investment license, the federal government vets you, and once you are approved to be someone who has an investment license, they determine that, one, you're an expert in finance, two, you're trustworthy to handle the public's money. And so I had that obligation before of handling someone's life savings that's put in your hands. You gotta make decisions with that. So I've had that kind of responsibility before, and now this is more serious because there's 150,000 lives at stake. But I know I have a plan to make those lives better. I have a plan to bridge the racial divide. I know that I can do this. I've been prepared for it. When I got into this race, I got into it late, very late. And I got into it because when I looked at the condition of Macon, and being in banking before, I went through 2001, 2008, I kind of saw the economic issues coming, and I didn't know it was going to be this bad. But with COVID, the way it is now, I know that my financial background and my plan, my understanding of business, and it's just a God-given talent, that I can implement strategic plans and execute the models that will bring revenue, create jobs, expand the airport, and make our small business successful. And I'm the person who can do that. When I first started, I had to read Gideon because I knew I didn't have any money and I didn't have a team. But I had the heart. I came in and ran a grassroots campaign, found some other vendors who worked hard with me and dedicated their lives for this past 3 months to help me be successful. And I pray that the voters understand that and they'll show up to vote. And I hope they vote, because I'm concerned that a lot of our seniors don't trust the absentee ballot process. And I just hope that they show up to vote on Tuesday. But I am the man for the job, and I ask for their vote. And yours.
All right, Mr. Whitfield, thank you so much for being a part of this forum. Before we let you go, let us know how we can contact you and connect with your campaign.
Okay, you can contact me by Mark Whitfield 2020 on Instagram, and Whitfield to rebuildmacon.com on Facebook, and Mark Whitfield, my personal Facebook.
Okay. All right. So you have heard Mark Whitfield's plan. Hopefully you guys were taking notes as we've been. Mr. Whitfield, thank you so much, and good luck on the campaign trail, sir.
Well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. You guys take care.
All right, you too.
Yes, good luck.
All right. So we have got an opportunity to hear from Mark Whitfield, some of his big takeaways. He's really, really passionate about the youth. He's passionate about he's passionate about the youth. He's passionate about reducing blight in the city. He wants more police officers, but based on what he said, he wants to do a better job of vetting police officers before they actually get on the force. So those were pretty much my takeaways from Mr. Whitfield. Did I miss anything?
I got bring jobs, airport expansion, and small business focus as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right. So
y'all gonna say yes, sir, yes, ma'am.
Hush. Okay, so we're gonna move along. We are halfway through this form, guys. We're halfway through this form. We have two more people that are waiting to speak with us. If you haven't done so already, we encourage you to like and share this broadcast, this forum, and we do see your comments. We do see the engagement that you're leaving. Some comments, some questions we may display, and if they choose to address it, that's great. If not, that's their prerogative as well. We did have prepared questions for our candidates, and those were based on the questions we asked you guys leading up to this to DM us questions. And these questions that we're asking tonight are a combination of questions that we prepared amongst ourselves, as well as questions that have been DM'd. So as long as you're respectful, we more likely will put them on air, and if they choose to address it, they can. If not, that's fine too. All right, so let's bring on our next hopeful candidate to be our next mayor. This person has been serving in the community for quite a while in several different capacities. He currently serves in District 2 of the as a Macon-Bibb County Commissioner. He is the Operations and Finance Committee Vice Chairman. He served in Bibb County Sheriff's Office Chairman. He is a life member of NAACP, and he is the Rabbi Emeritus of Beth Temple, Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring him on, Rabbi Larry Schlesinger. Rabbi Schlesinger, thank you so much for being on with us tonight.
Hey, great to be here, Wesley. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Sir, yes, sir, most definitely. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to go right into it. Rabbi Schlesinger, tell us a little bit about yourself, your personal background, your professional background, and why you feel you're the best choice to be our next mayor.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I actually grew up in Washington, D.C. That's my hometown. Went to public school there and went on to college there as well at the George Washington University. I received a BA in religion. From there, I went to the Hebrew Union College for rabbinic studies. The first year was in Jerusalem. It happened to be the year of the Yom Kippur War, which was 73 to 74. That's a whole different story, which is fairly interesting. But I was ordained in 1978. I received a master's in Hebrew literature and then a Doctor of Divinity degree from the college as well. I've spent my entire career as a clergyman serving congregations, primarily here in the Deep South. I was in Columbus, Georgia. I was in Montgomery, Alabama, and I'm glad to be here in Macon, Georgia, which now is home. I moved here in 2004. And when I got here, people were saying, you know, we just need a change in government. We need good people. We need good people. We need good people. So I sort of felt like, the prophet Isaiah in the 6th chapter of that book in the temple in Jerusalem, he sees God sitting high on the throne. And Isaiah hears, whom shall we send and whom shall go for us? And the prophet says, here I am, send me. So as people were asking for good people to step up to the plate and serve, I threw my hat into the ring. I was elected citywide to the Macon City Council in 2007 and served as the president pro tem of the council. We consolidated our municipal governments and our county governments in 2014. So I ran for the District 2 seat, was victorious, reelected in 2017. I will tell you that District 2 is at least 2/3 African American. And it was because I built up a lifetime almost of trust within the community that I was able to be elected and to serve that diverse population as well. In addition, I sit on the Water Authority Board. I sit on Visit Macon Board. I sit on 2 of our county's pension boards as well, and serve on the Operation and Finance Committee, which I've been doing forever. So I've got a tremendous amount of experience in local government finance and making it work no matter what the situation is. And I will tell you that COVID-19 has eaten into our anticipated sales tax revenue. You just never know what's going to happen, and you just have to roll with the punches and make adjustments along the way. I'm very pleased to say that after we went through a budget turmoil. This was 2 years ago, and Mr. Sullivan referred to it. We had pretty much gone through the reserves, and I just dug in my heels and I said, I'm not going to vote a budget where we're balancing the budget with our savings. I'm very pleased to say that, after kicking and screaming, we now have a $27.8 million surplus, which is better than most communities our size. So we really have been able to economize and to save. So I've just been in local government since 2007. I'll be able to hit the ground running come inauguration day, probably in late December. And I just look forward to continuing to serve the really good people of Macon-Bibb County and really all of Middle Georgia.
All right. So you shared with us that you are not originally from Macon, and I'm sure you've probably heard that the residents of many of the candidates were a concern of some of the people. Can you put those concerns to rest by telling us what you love most about Macon?
Oh, sure. We are already a great city here in Georgia. It's not that we've got work to do to get there. We are already a great city here in Middle Georgia, and I'll tell you why. First of all, we got a central location right here in the state. I mean, we're smack dab right in the middle. We are at the junction of 2 interstate highways, and we've got a great railroad yard as well here. We have all of the water that any business that needs water could possibly want here. Atlanta doesn't. We do here, and that's why the Irving Tissue Company came here, because for paper products you need to use a tremendous amount of water. We're able to supply it. That really sealed the deal. We got great colleges and universities here. Our medical care is really unbelievable. Our hospitals here are points where people from all over Middle Georgia, come for health reasons. The film industry is very, very active here. The music industry, especially with Capricorn Records reopening, is going to just flourish. We've got tourist industry that, after this COVID-19 thing passes, we have, like 5-6 million people who are just sitting, 85 miles up the road. And all we have to do here in Macon is give them a good reason to get in their cars, to drive down 75, to spend the day here, spend the weekend here. I mean, we've got a lot to, really offer in terms of tourism, which is just beginning to blossom. We are a straight shot from the port in Savannah, and that container traffic is not going to end anytime soon. That's why they're doing the big I-16, I-75, redo out here. The Atlanta airport is on our side of Atlanta itself. That's the busiest airport in the world, and we're hop, skip, and a jump from the state capital of Atlanta. So we've got all this great stuff that is really going for us. But, and you say it's I'm sort of coming in from the outside. Sometimes it takes people from the outside to see what a great place this really is. But it's the people, it's the people who live here. And we're a lot more diverse than we typically imagine, because we've got large and growing Latino communities, Indian communities, Asian communities, Muslim communities. We've got a large LGBTQ community. And all of these communities contribute significantly to our local economy and the quality of life that we enjoy here every day. And what I've done over the course of my service in government is that I've reached out to them all. I've built relationship within them all and bridges across them all. So we've got a lot going for us geographically, but we have even more going for us from the people who are our neighbors. This is just a wonderful community with wonderful people.
All right, so Rabbi Schlesinger, we got to talk about what's been happening in our community and in our country really as of late with respect to George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. Let's just call it what it was. These, in a lot of ways, were hate crimes. So lately, there's been a lot of talk about whether or not we should have a hate crime bill in the state of Georgia. Let us know your thoughts. Do you feel there should be a hate crime bill in Georgia, and why or why not?
Well, I was the first of the mayoral candidates to call for the passage of a hate crimes bill in Atlanta. You know, a lot of people say, well, you know, the federal government's got, you know, something in place. We really don't need it. Well, you know, the deaths of Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and George Floyd just indicate that we do need a hate crimes bill passed in Atlanta. And you know, one of my goals is to really mobilize this community to let our legislative delegation in Atlanta know that we want a hate crimes bill and we want it now. Because ultimately, that bill needs to be passed by the state legislature. And even though I don't serve there, I've got enough influence with people like you and your audience where we just stand up and say, we want a hate crimes bill and we want it now. And we're just insistent. Squeaky wheels get the oil. So it's time for all of us to band together and squeak and make sure that the message goes out from the state capitol and the governor's office that we're just not going to tolerate this.
Okay, so the next question is, let's talk about the crime here in Macon-Bibb, especially with the large number of homicides. What are your thoughts on that, and what are your plans for crime here in Macon-Bibb?
Well, there's no simple answer to it, and it's really kind of multi-dimensional. So if you go to my webpage, larryformacon.com, you're going to see I got a 5-point plan spelled out there. It's really too much for us to go into, but the highlights is that what we want to do is decrease gun violence. We want to put our Macon responders first. We want to invest in our youth. I mean, that's going to be very, very important to me. We want to implement real justice reform, and we want to do what we can to fight crime before it happens. To that end, you know, we really need to, you know, put more boots on the ground, but we don't want to create a police state, you know, in doing that. And, you know, I go back to the days where there was a local officer, in this case, you know, a deputy, who was basically assigned to my neighborhood and was visible in the neighborhood. And everybody knew him and everybody talked to him. And if you had a problem, you knew who your go-to guy was to go to. So, you know, we want to get the best and the brightest. We want to pay them adequately, a living wage, you know, shall we say. And we want them to become more involved, at least with you know, different corners of this community. The one thing that I've talked to the district attorney and I've talked to the sheriff about this, but you know, in terms of you know, all the homicides, it just seems that anybody on the street who wants a handgun can get a handgun. And it's not like they're walking into Academy Sports or, Eagle, gun range and buying it legally. There is a market that I would call a black market for weapons. So, I think what we have to do is we have to try our best to stop the supply, stop the flow of weapons, on the street in the hands of people who are going to use them irresponsibly. I'm not talking about taking away anybody's Second Amendment rights. I'm a gun owner myself. Nobody's going to take it away from me. But we've just got to stop the flow of illegal, stolen, weapons into the hands of people who use them, irresponsibly. I also want to, set up I also want to set up an afternoon and youth development council to put together programs of neighborhood after-school activities. Our students spend 80% of their time outside of the classroom. So we want to keep as many of our students on the path to success as possible. We want to provide them with afternoon activities that are going to supplement their learning with, other, learning opportunities. And ultimately, I want to do this in different neighborhoods around the county, no matter where you live. And then what I want to do through this council is plug into the Georgia statewide afternoon network that can really be a resource to us. I just think we've got to really focus on the generation that is coming up and make sure that the opportunities that they have to get into trouble are minimized. And it's going to take a community effort to do that.
Is it my turn? When a new business comes to town, more than likely it goes into North Macon. So do you have a plan if you're elected to bring businesses to other parts of the city?
Well, it's going to take investors making an investment in our neighborhoods that are not necessarily located in North Macon or downtown or maybe the far southern part of the county. Mr. Whitfield talked about establishing enterprise zones. That's one tool we can use. Tax allocation districts. I mean, we've got tax allocation districts set up already that provide business owners, entrepreneurs with opportunities to defer taxes if they set up in this area. We also have business improvement districts. Probably the most known one is the Eisenhower Corridor Business Improvement District, which is really kind of focusing on education. I mean, it's looking to convert Eisenhower Parkway into a education route into the city. And I would be very interested in attracting service-oriented businesses into any part of Macon, Georgia, and provide as many incentives as we possibly can. We've also got opportunity zones, and that's where we really need the investors to come down and invest their money in some of our neighborhoods as well. We need to partner with the Macon Chamber of Commerce. I would love for the Chamber of Commerce to put together some sort of mentoring program for our students, coming up. If we want to develop entrepreneurs, who better than the entrepreneurs themselves to help our students, get there and see what the possibilities really are in the business world. And then the Industrial Authority has done a great job. That's why we got Kumho Tire. That's why we got Irving tissue products. That's why we've got Amazon and all the other, larger businesses that have moved in here. And it's just partnering, with the industrial authority and then with the businesses themselves in order to provide living wage jobs. I mean, I'm not talking about minimum wage burger flipping jobs. People need living wage jobs so that they can have family time after they put in their 8 hours a day at work. So we got a lot of tools in the toolbox. I would like to think that we could go on, some sort of, major, advertising campaign about Macon itself, not only within the state but outside the state as well. But it's going to take, good government in order to attract the businesses here, and we definitely want to be partners with anybody who wants to come, and anybody who's thinking about coming. I'm ready, willing, and able to go after.
Okay, Rabbi Schlesinger, let's talk about taxes. Let's talk about taxes. Let's talk about property tax, and let's talk about sales tax. It's always an issue with taxes, because it seems like with every administration, taxes end up getting raised, and it's normally either sales tax or property tax. There's issue on both ends. If you raise the property tax, what happens is homeowners are upset because not everyone who lives in Macon-Bibb is homeowners. So to them, it's look like you're depending on me as a homeowner to bring revenue to the city. Whereas when it concerns sales tax, which is which concerns goods and services, the purchase of goods and services, the issue with that is that's gonna raise, like, say if I need to go to the grocery store to buy groceries for my family, hiking up the sales tax is gonna hike the prices of those up for Macon-Bibb residents. So if you had to choose between raising the property tax and the sales tax, which would be your choice and why?
Okay. I have no intention to raise property taxes moving forward. The property owners are taxed enough as it is. I oppose the tax increase that was imposed last year. The mayor is not calling for a tax increase this year, and you really can't do that to people who have been adversely affected financially by the COVID-19 epidemic that we're going through. I really think that raising property taxes is like a last resort, and it's a resort I'm not going to go to. Sales tax, the more you sell, the more revenue that you get, and frankly, we're a hub city, which means that people will come from surrounding cities and places to shop here. When we were talking about the SPLOSH, the special local option sales tax that we instituted a couple of years ago, it was said that 60% of that comes from people who live outside of Macon-Bibb County. Given the choice, I mean, what I would do is institute an OLOS, which is an other local option sales tax. This is something that the legislative delegation in Atlanta needs to approve, and then it needs to go to the voters as a referendum. What it would do is, for property owners, is it would roll back property taxes as much as 7 mills, which is fairly significant. And again, if we're dealing with the 60% of what we receive comes from outside of Macon-Bibb County, then most of that would be paid for by people outside of the county itself. So Sales tax is good. I mean, the more sales tax we get, the more booming the economy is, and that's a good thing. Property tax, we just have to live within our means, and we can't just constantly turn to, what I call the simple solution, which is just to hike everybody up. I mean, that's just not fair.
Oh, okay, so it's my turn. All right. So if the city were given a $5 million grant and the power was in your hands to spend it however you wished, how would you spend the $5 million grant?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I would take it all and invest in the after school and youth development neighborhood activities. I really think we've got to concentrate on our youth. Our Bibb County schools have improved. They're really not where they should be in terms of graduation rates and in terms of reading levels. But we have to invest in our youth coming up. We have to make sure that they stay on the road to success. I would immediately fund that program that I am going to propose with that $5 million, and basically train up children to be as successful as they can possibly be. We want to create the best workforces possible. That attracts businesses here. I mean, there's no reason that somebody who graduates from high school here shouldn't socially and technologically be able to serve in any workplace anywhere in the country. So I would invest it in our youth and in after school activities and learning opportunities. That's where I'd spend it.
All right. It's me. I'm the last one. All right. So everybody wants to know, what makes you the best choice for mayor of Macon-Bibb County?
Well, I think it's two things. The first thing is my experience in local government. I mean, local government is really different than running a business is itself, because if you're the director of a company, you tell everybody else what to do, basically. Within the county government or local government, you've got district commissioners that you have to work with. You've got staff that you have to work with. We want to run local government as a business for sure, but at the same time, it's not exactly the same as a company or a corporation, because as mayor, you really have to listen to the people. You have to be able to work with the commissioners. I've got the experience to do that. I can hit the ground running on day one. The other thing is the relationships that I've built within the community. I mean, no other candidate has the relationships that I do, throughout this community. And I mentioned that District 2 is at least 2/3 African American, and you don't get elected, somebody who looks like me, unless you've really built up trust and confidence. I mean, people know that all they need to do is pick up a phone and they're going to call me. I don't care where you live. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what religion you belong to. Nobody is expendable in this community. And you call me, and people will testify this. I can't do everything, but I can certainly do what I can to attend to whatever your concern is. So, I just have relationships in this community that will unite this community and not divide it. United we stand, divided we fall. We just don't need to end up with a community that's divided against itself, because that just, slows down the wheels of progress. And, once this COVID-19 passes, then, we're going to be going back to Macon on the move. And I've been glad to be a part of that since my election in 2007. And I hope to be a major part of it as mayor moving forward, because this is a great place for so many reasons.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. You are my commissioner.
Oh, okay, cool.
So it's nice to talk to you.
Yeah.
And thanks. And Wesley, thanks for putting this whole thing together. I really admire y'all for taking this so seriously. And I hope that the voters out there, and I hope they'll vote for me for mayor, but what I hope they'll do is participate in the process, because an important way of getting your voice heard is to show up at the polls, whether it's early voting or on Tuesday. So if you haven't done it already, get out and vote on Tuesday, and I hope you'll cast your vote for Rabbi Larry Schlesinger as mayor of Macon-Bibb County.
Now, I want to make sure that Real Talk for the Christian Walk does not directly endorse any candidate, but I do want to send a special thank you to you, Rabbi Schlesinger, because when we reached out to all the candidates, you were the very first one to say yes. So thank you very much for your willingness and your heart for people in general. Thank you so very much.
Well, thank you. And as I say, I just appreciate you taking this so seriously and helping to get the vote out.
Real quick, before we let you go, real quick, let people know how they can contact you and be a part of your campaign.
Yeah, great. LarryForMacon.com is the website. I also have a Facebook page, Larry for Macon. And if you really want to reach me, I'm going to give you my cell number. It's 478-719-1257.
Okay, give the people that one more time, just in case they may want to take that down.
Sure. The cell number is 478-719-1257. And you can go to LarryForMacon.com on the internet, or my Facebook page, Larry for Macon.
All right, Rabbi Schlesinger, thank you so much for being a part. Good luck on your campaign.
Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate the opportunity.
All right. So that was Rabbi Schlesinger. So the takeaways from Rabbi Schlesinger, really passionate about he's about fiscal responsibility. What are the takeaways you all get?
He has experience in local governments.
Mm-hmm.
He would like to invest in after school programs and development for our youth and their programs. I did like the fact that he spoke on Eisenhower Parkway, basically as a route to bring other people into Macon. He mentioned doing it with like educational places, so I do like that. That was a good idea, because I feel like Eisenhower is overlooked a lot in the planning for Macon or whatever. So I mean, he has some really good based on my notes, he has some really good insight or whatever. And I also about partner with the chamber, so that would be good too. For a lot of
that would be good.
His experience was one of his biggest assets. He has a lot of experience.
Yeah. Nick made the note. Pam, you are a great note taker. Pam is a lot of things, and thorough is one of them. Most definitely.
Yes, you gotta pay attention.
All All right, guys, we have one more candidate we need to talk to, but before we talk to that candidate, we want to reiterate June 9th. If you have not voted early already, please go to the polls. You can
Please.
look up what your precinct is and go vote. If you want to see change in this city, you have to go vote. That's why we're providing this platform. A lot of people, as a matter of fact, the whole reason I started this, I had posted it on my Facebook that I didn't know who I wanted to vote for in Macon, and Nikki Farley sent me a DM saying, you know, it would be great if like you could directly to the candidates and see their views are. And I was like, you know, we should have a forum on our podcast. So, you know, I talked with Leah and Pam with it about it. They were down with it. So that's how this all started. So shout out to Nikki Farley for inspiring.
Shout out to Nikki.
Yes, shout out to Nikki Farley. She'll be on soon.
Nikki has been one of our biggest supporters, like from the beginning, like real talk. So thank you, Nikki. All right, let's bring on our last person that we'll be speaking with tonight. He has a lot of experience in working with the city. He served as the chair of the Macon Industrial Authority. He's done work with the school system, has a heart for the city, and desires to be your next mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Clifford Whitby. Mr. Whitby, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Pleasure to be here with you guys. Hello.
All right.
Hey.
Hi.
All right, let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit of information about yourself, your personal background, your professional background, and why you want to be our next mayor, and what you love so much about the city.
That's a mouthful. My name is Clifford Whitby, and I was born and raised here. My mother and father raised 6 children in the Unionville, Tender Hike in Unionville area time. My father was an entrepreneur at the time. He was a barber, owned a barber shop down on 5th Street, later on Poplar Street. My 5 brothers and sisters and I was educated in the Bibb County school system. We grew up in Macon. I grew up in a barber shop. As you guys know, the barber shop is where the community come, the men in the community come and discuss all manners of the issues in the community. So I grew up listening to issues and being mindful of things that impact the community as a whole. I raised 3 daughters in Macon, and I have 3 younger daughters that I'm raising here in this community. I have served this community in multiple capacities, everything from the president of the 100 Black Men, as well as chairman, as you mentioned, of the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority. Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority is the lead economic development arm of this community. In short, all economic development rolled through the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority. Under my leadership at the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority, there was a renaissance of prosperity that took place during the Obama administration. I became the chairman the year President Obama took the oath of office to serve as the president of the United States. In the tenure between 2009 and 2017, the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority achieved some of the greatest success in the 55-year history of the Industrial Authority. What I'm most proud of of my service under my leadership, not only did we revamp the entire model of the industrial authority, we was inclusive. When I took over the industrial authority had never done business with a minority, women-owned, African-American firm. When I left the industrial authority had done over $7 million with minority, women-owned businesses. So I know a little bit about what it's going to take to move this community in the direction we all want to go. By way of just a little bit about who I am as a citizen of Macon-Bibb County. I'm a person that have lived here all my life and understand this community very well.
All right, Mr. Whitby, let's get into it. Let's get right into the heart of the matter. Let's talk about hate crimes. We have seen an influx of hate crimes as of late with Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, most recently George Floyd. Watched that, in fact, before we came on, had an opportunity to watch his second memorial service. There's recently been talks of whether or not a hate crime bill should be in Georgia. So let us know your thoughts, whether or not you feel a hate crime bill should be legislation in Georgia, and if you say yes, why do you say yes? If you say no, why not?
Of course, that's not really a question. It should have been a bill. It should have been a law. What we're seeing in America today isn't new. Anybody that want to pretend that it's new is choosing to just be ignorant. I would quote Will Smith, one of our finest performers, who recently said, racism isn't getting worse, it's just getting filmed.
Yes.
Anybody that wear our skin color understand that. So absolutely, without a doubt. And when I become mayor, I'll do everything I can within the powers of the mayor's office to enact that.
All right, Pam, you got the next question.
All right, sorry, I forgot to unmute. All right, so let's talk about the crime here in Macon-Bibb. I know we're at, I think, 27 homicides, I think it is, at this time. So what's your plan on reducing crime in the Macon-Bibb County area?
Very simple, Pam. Very simple. Hiring 150 police officers is not the answers. We've had that chain gang model before. They can't build enough prisons, providing opportunity for our communities, providing services, engaging in the community. Police officers don't stop crime. Intelligent implementing of programs and devoting resources to address the issues that plague these underserved communities is without a doubt the answers. So let me say it to you this way, Pam. One of the things I'm most proud about in our campaign is we have at count today about 114 clergymen that has endorsed our campaign. These are stakeholders. These are the people that are in the communities where these crimes are taking place. Intelligent leadership and guidance will serve this community so much more than the hiring police officers to do what, Pam? To do what? Mass incarceration? Our plan is simple. We're the only campaign that introduced early on a 6-point crime bill. And it centers around engaging our community, connecting with the stakeholders. I have respect for many of the candidates that you've interviewed this evening. But you cannot engage a community that you're afraid of. When people talk about crime, and we talk about where these crimes are taking place and the root cause of these crimes, what I would do as mayor is something that haven't been done before. You can't engage a community you don't understand. You can't engage a community you're afraid of. We will invest resources with the stakeholders in our communities, and we will go after our youth. We will provide opportunities for our youth. We would do what hadn't been done. And anybody sitting on this panel this evening that think that somehow, after hundreds of years, this is going to change without being intentional is being quite naive.
All right, Aleia, you got the next question. Aleia, unmute your mic.
Sorry about that. I don't know if you were paying attention, Mr. Whitby, but of course, I know the question came in from one of our viewers about your past and can you be trusted? And I just want to give you the opportunity to address that. I know you're probably tired of addressing that, but if you wouldn't mind taking the time to just, address that for the viewer and, for anyone else who may be an issue for.
Oh, Aleia, so much for that. I thank you so much for that question. We live in the greatest country in the world. A criminal justice system that the world recognizes must be reformed. The fact that that question is being asked, Aleia, after a man and his family has went through the criminal justice system. I'm not talking about the GBI. I'm not talking about Bibb County District Attorney's Office. I'm talking about the United States of America Justice Department with very serious charges. My family and I endured accusations, lies, and I was willing to face a lifetime imprisonment for somebody that looked like you and I, being judged by white people, 9 whites and 3 blacks. If I could speak to that questioner, how can you even ask that if you understand the United States justice system that says a man is innocent until proven guilty? I was charged by the people who print the money, who have unlimited resources. And I walked away completely vindicated. That's not the question, Aleia.
Thank you so much for just, I hated to ask because I know you're probably tired, but I just think that the people need to actually hear you, address that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's talk about business, Mr. Whitby. Let's talk about business. We see it all the time. When new businesses come to town, more often than not, those businesses are going to go to North Macon. Should you be elected as our next mayor, do you have plans in place to bring businesses to other parts of the city, say East Macon, South Macon, that kind of thing?
So Wesley, let me say this here to you. I cannot express to you how excited I am about what we're about to do. Millennials, Gen X's, Y's, and Z's, and all the rest of them has emanated and has taken over this campaign. And I can't tell you how excited I am. And let me tell you why that is. Because they know a man that has the ability to stand against the forces of evil and come out not even with the smell of smoke on him, anything. Have the courage to stand to do what's necessary. So what these young people are excited about, Aleia, what these young people are excited about is what I'm getting ready to do in Macon-Bibb County. And that is unleash the resources that will assist them in moving toward what is going to move Macon-Bibb County out of this stagnant position. Macon-Bibb County used to be the hub of Middle Georgia. And now you have a small segment of the community monopolizing the vast resources of this community. These young people, they're not placing their trust in fool's gold. We getting ready to change this community. So when you say Eisenhower Parkway, when you say they only want to go to North Macon, that's because that's where only the resources are going. When Mayor Rickard ran for office, he ran on a platform of revitalizing downtown. I was a part of that effort. That's what he ran on. And guess what? He did that. He devoted resources. They put together models. We put together models that made that successful. My platform is we're going to revitalize Bellevue. We're going to revitalize Pleasant Hill. We're going to revitalize East Macon. We're going to revitalize South Macon. We're going to revitalize this community. Why? Because we care about this community, not just a segment of this community. So our platform centers around leveling the playing field. Our platform started October the 4th, 2019, and it was very simple. Equity, fair play, and balance. We're not looking for any special treatment. Fair opportunity is all these communities need. And I can assure you, they excited for a reason. Because I promise you, on day one, we're going to change this community.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. Now let's talk about property. Let's talk about property tax, and then let's talk about sales tax. Property tax meaning taxes paid on property you own, which refers to homeowners. Sales tax, a tax to purchasing goods and services. If you had a choice between raising property tax and sales taxes, which would you choose? And the reason we ask that question is because normally homeowners complain about property tax being raised because they feel like there are only a certain amount of homeowners in Macon-Bibb, and all the city's looking to pull their revenue in to fund the city, and then sales tax. If you raise sales tax, that raises the prices of goods and services. So if you had to raise one of the two, which will be your choice and why?
It's a false choice. That's not really I do understand your question, but let me just say, as serving as the chair of the lead economic development arm, operating in the capacity of the chairman and the executive director responsible for the day-to-day operations. So when a candidate come before you and start talking about lowering property taxes, it's a false choice. A community pay taxes to fund the services they want. So you want libraries, you want recreation, you want garbage services. All of these are tied to what the millage is, what the property tax rate is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when people start talking about lowering property taxes, the only way you're going to lower property taxes or raise property taxes, et cetera, is you have to make the decision, just like each one of us have to do in our own homes. Are we going to splurge on that new carpet we may want? Or are we going to invest it in the new roof that we need? Which one is most important? All of this is tied to the center of our platform, opportunities. You can't even talk about lowering property taxes unless you are providing opportunities for those who are not paying property taxes to be able to share in the burden of spreading that cost around. So how are you going to lower property taxes or sales taxes when the community continue to suffer from in this economic downturn? The key is unleashing that human potential in these young people who are so frustrated because they have to go to Atlanta, Charlotte, and other areas for opportunity. When you provide opportunity, then more people are participating in the funding of the community you say you want. It's 4 of us on this screen right now. And we have to sit here and we have to decide, do we want our garbage services? Do we want our police officers? Do we want our whatever it is? Then we have to be willing to pay for it. And the only way that decreases is when you have more people participating. You cannot keep having this conversation about property taxes, sale taxes, without seriously understanding. We live in a world where Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and some of the others make more money in a day than whole cities make. That's a problem. That's what we're talking about when we talk about equity, balance, fair play. If we're going to be honest here this evening, let's make this a real question. When you talk about, and I've heard candidates say, we're going to lower property taxes. How? How? You going to shut down libraries? You going to not fund the Tuckman? And keep the Grand Opera House, by the way. That's not a real question. What we got to do is seriously look at what it's going to take to allow everybody to have opportunities so that we can create the community we want.
Okay, so I have another question, but I just want to ask a personal question that I've noticed that a lot of people have been talking about lately, like the Kroger on Pinona that closed, right? So that's a big thing to talk about nowadays. Well, I noticed you said that you wanted to help like the Bellevue community and you spoke on Unionville. Well, I have a little stake in between both of those areas. So my question is, has anybody thought about what to do with the old Piggly Wiggly that used to be on Napier and Hillcrest? And that whole commercial little unit right there, like why does that always get overlooked versus Kroger that was, it was in the community for a little while, it wasn't there as long as the Piggly Wiggly was there, or you're from the area when Aleia was there, when Aleia was the store that everybody went to before they even went to the mall in the earlier 90s. So why is that always overlooked versus the Kroger on Pinona? That's just a question that I have. I have another question to ask. I just got off of the list of what everybody was getting, but
Let me
it's
get
just
that one
something.
first.
I noticed that you spoke on Unionville
Let me get that one
and
first.
Bellevue. So yeah, let's go over that one first.
Yeah, go to that one first, because now you're gonna date yourself too now. Because see, when you start talking about Napier Square, the Piggly Wigglies, the Eckers, the Maryland Fried Chicken, see, you're gonna date yourself now. So, so I know who I'm talking about. So let me just go there. You're absolutely right. Just because the Midtown Krogers, as they called it, but we used to be a Piggly Wiggly. See, she remember Thrifty back there on the other end, there on the other side there across the board. So when you get to talking about what you talk about is economic development, and that's my sweet spot, and that's why I love to talk about across the board. But let me just say this here to you, because the core of your question is spot on. But let me just tell you why you shouldn't worry about it that way. What we understand is these are just opportunities, Pam. The right leadership, these are just opportunities. It can be, but the first thing you have to do, we have to create an environment to where we get all wheels turning, moving in the same direction. All of this is just economic development. You have to first have a market. You have to first create a thriving community so people have the resources and that discretionary income. When the flavor we have, there are things that I know that can be created right here, that I don't have to go out to certain areas of town. We create it right here in these same little areas. So when you start talking about, you're not just talking about Napier Square. You can go one block over and catch the Mount Pia area, and you had thriving commercial hubs that was in there. You got the Pinona. See, Pam remember when Zayres and Kmart and all of that was over there. Pam remember when Walmart was up on the hill over there on the side, and Media Plate, the Quail's Nest. Why did all that leave? That was the economic downturn of Macon-Bibb. And so once we get it going in the right direction and providing resources, all that is vehicles for us to create these economic opportunities for these young people who are hungry and ready to go get it. Now, it may not be a Piggly Wiggly, it may not be a Eckers, but I guarantee you it lines up for this new emerging market that I have all the confidence in the world that our young people are ready to harness and jump on it and make us all proud. Go ahead with the second one, Pam. That's it. That's the first phase of it. You have a two-part series there. Go with the second one.
Yeah, that's what my heart at too. I just said it was a heart check right there. Okay, so we're gonna stay on track. Let's see. My next question is, hold on. Okay, if the city was given a $5 million grant, the power was in your hands to spend it however you wished, how would you spend it?
All right. So understanding, and I have to answer this. I think I got the spirit of the question, but understanding this, Pam, a $5 million grant, if it came into the city, it would be a certain amount of criteria that was associated with. So it depended on if it was a grant that had requirements attached to it, where it was where you was limited in how you could use it or address it. But but I think the core to the question is, what would the priorities be? And that's real simple for me. The priority is to support our community, to have a matrix set up to where we can unleash what people cannot calculate right now. And that's that human imagination on how we reinvent Macon-Bibb into that thriving Middle Georgia hub that it once was. I mentioned it earlier. It was the hub once. But when it was a hub, there wasn't the commercial outlets in Houston County, in Gray, in the other areas. Everybody had to come to Macon. Now you have everything in these outlier communities that you have in Macon. So what Macon have to do is Macon have to harness what it has chosen to neglect. And that's its most valuable resources. And that's our young people. That's why we got to educate our children. That's why we got to prepare them for the world that they have to navigate through. That's why we cannot continue to turn a blind eye as our children are walking out of these schools, reading below grade level, some. And that's not a slight on our hardworking educators. That's us. That's our responsibility to make sure we demand a certain standard.
Aleia, unmute your mic, baby.
Oops. All right. As a Macon-Bibb County citizen and as a person who works in a beauty salon, I know the people, we want our voice to be heard. So how do you plan on involving the community in the law and decision-making process?
You know, the boardroom is being set right now. I don't know if you saw the excitement over the last 3 weeks at the board of election. This is not something for just a campaign. We're sitting in that boardroom right now. So, Aleia, here's the thing. What we're doing is not working. That's crystal clear. If we don't bring a new, fresh approach to how we go after everything. Look, I'm just a placeholder. I have young people around me for a reason. And let me just say, when I say young people, I'm most excited. I had, and I promise not to do this, but I had a person, 74, with some of the, oh man, when I say the freshest ideas, the coolest stuff that was going, it was just amazing. And I can't even get into all of the different possibilities that exist. But this is for you guys. I'm laying just the foundation. When we start talking about having ideas, and being at the table and having a voice, these young people you see around me will have a cabinet level position. This is not play. This is real. These people aren't excited. We sit around here with people with these false promises about hiring police officers like that gonna solve our issues in Macon, not recognizing what we're dealing with. We have almost 120 clergy of the Macon community. These are stakeholders that has endorsed this campaign. I'm not gonna mention the business people. I'm not gonna mention because the name will get too long, and then I won't have to do it. I can mention some of the millennials and some of the young people name, but I can't name all of those either. But what I do want Macon-Bibb to know is come Tuesday, come Wednesday morning, I'm going to wake up going to work for Macon-Bibb County. We have got to change this. We have a real problem. And just cutting taxes as though you don't recognize all that means is you may not get your garbage picked up but every 2 weeks or every month. That's all that can mean. We got to have real solutions. And I applaud you guys for putting this together. But I hope you can appreciate I can't come here and sugarcoat and play no politician, because that's not what I am. I'm going to tell you what's real and what we got to do as a community, because this is not about Clifford Whitfield. This is about Macon-Bibb and the direction we want to go in. Wesley, you muted. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. There you go.
My mic, I got Aleia spirit a little bit. All right, so our last question for you. What makes you, summarize the best way you can, what makes you the better choice, or the best choice rather, to be our mayor as opposed to your four opponents?
I was born and raised here. I was born and raised in Macon. My family live here in Macon. I've served this community in every aspect. My record, similar to our former president, people may want to distort change, but no one can argue in the middle of the last economic downturn, we came away, Macon-Bibb, with a treasure trove of successes. Never in the history of Macon-Bibb have that type of success. In the history of the Macon-Bibb County Industrial Authority, the lead economic development arm of this community, bar none. That's not bragging, that's just the truth. And how did we do that? We did that by being inclusive, including everybody, and making tough decisions, being willing to break from the things that wasn't working, recognizing the opportunities and having the courage to fight for those things. When you give me the gavel, I know what to do with it. I will work for everybody in this community. We will open up this community in a way it hadn't been opened up. I did a little research earlier today. This community was formed in 1823. I think this community have had something like 60, pretty close, approximately 60 some mayors, 57, 60 some mayors. Only one has been African American. Look at the shape we're in. Look at the world today. Look at my experience. We sit here and we talk about injustices, the disparities. And I have to answer a question, no pun intended, Aleia. Now, this is not for you. About something that's just foolish. Why? Because the goal is to continue to manipulate. For what? At one of the last forums that we had, I got the bonus question, Aleia. The bonus question I got that nobody else got. How would you deal with the issue of race? You can't deal with the issue of race without dealing with the root cause. There are those who walk amongst us who want to perpetuate for their own selfish reasons. It's time for Macon to wake up. It's time for Macon-Bibb to wake up. We got a clear choice Tuesday. We have a very clear choice. I can't be more, let them know one more thing. I can't be more direct. Just answer and let them know one more thing. I can't be more direct than clear about this. Do we want to do the same old thing we've been doing? All these people are talking about doing essentially it's the same thing. I'm talking about doing something drastically different, and that is investing in you. I'm talking about investing in you. And anybody who know me. And I hope you guys can get this out because we haven't had the chance to have this direct kind of one-on-one conversation. I say this in smaller groups. See, I can't be bought. I don't owe them anything. I don't owe people anything. Clearly, Aleia, you know I can't be frightened. I don't have to play games. We got a real clear choice on Tuesday. Go with the same old, or let's go full speed ahead. Wednesday morning, my brother, we go hit the ground running. I assure you, Wednesday morning, I'm gonna be in DC. We gonna hit the ground running. I got people I'm putting in place right here. We going to work. And we gonna rebuild this community. Because if we don't do it, who gonna do it? This is my home. And we started it with a real simple question. Is it worth fighting for? And overwhelmingly, the people you see around me have said, yes, our community is worth fighting for. And that's what we're gonna do.
So, Ms. Whitby, we thank you for your time tonight. And thank you for sharing with us tonight. Before we let you go, let people know how they can get in contact with you and how they can get with your campaign.
Thank you. We have on our social media platform, cliffwhitby.com. You can your Instagram, Twitter, our Facebook page, our website. You can get us and catch us on all of those platforms. But to be very honest with you, we got a lot of people out there that know how. Anybody that want to get involved can get involved. You can reach us through the social media platform, whatever your preference, Instagram, whatever it is. And we look, this is gonna be all of us doing this. So cliffwhitby.com, and trust me, the work only starts Wednesday morning. You know, the first step is Tuesday, but the work starts Wednesday morning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Whitby, good luck to you on your campaign. Thank you so much for taking time to tonight. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, good luck.
All right. So that was Clifford Whitby. We have gone through all of our candidates. So Pam, go ahead, unmute your mic, give us the cliff note of you took copious cliff notes.
Okay. So All right, so he was born and raised here. He is the son of an entrepreneur. He is an entrepreneur. He talked about how he was a part of revamping the models that were inclusive, how he helped with the $7 million being brought in by minorities and women-owned businesses. He stood with us on the hate crimes laws and bills that they should have already been in place. He wants to provide opportunities and services. He spoke of the 114 clergymen that are also backing him, which is good. He wants to provide resources to our community, especially for our youth. Also he spoke of setting up a metric. And also working to reinvent the Macon-Bibb to be a thriving city and county, which we have been before. And he basically stands on demanding a certain standard for this area, and he did good.
Okay, we recently got a DM asking if we can post a summary of each candidate's perspectives, and the answer to that is yes, we will definitely do that. That is something we will have on our page, if not tomorrow, by Monday. That is something we will work on. We'll have a perspective of the four candidates. We won't be able to have a direct perspective for Lester Miller because unfortunately he was unable to be with us tonight. But we will have a summary of each candidate's perspective, so you can, based on what was shown on this podcast, so you can look at it and so you can make informed decisions on your own. I hope this was informative and helpful. You will agree. Kind of indecisive as to who you wanted to vote for, and who you thought was the best candidate for you. Tuesday, we want to encourage you. This Tuesday, June 9th, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., you have the opportunity to elect not only our mayor, but also our district attorney, Nita Reynolds Howard and David Cook. Do your research on them, make an informed decision about who you want as your next DA, right? So we need a conversation on all of these. We need to be part of a conversation on all of these things.
And commissioners.
So, and your commissioners. That's correct. And your if your commissioner in your district is not running contested, do your research on your commissioners. Because here's the thing. The argument is handled all the time. Does your vote count? Does your vote matter? And we can go back and forth as to whether or not it matters on the presidential level because of the whole electoral college piece. But when it comes to elect your state and local officials, your vote absolutely matters. It absolutely matters. It's our civic duty. It is our civic duty to hold our elected officials accountable. As Christians, we trust God, but as citizens, we must hold our elected officials accountable. So you can't have a voice without voting. So you 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Go out, put your mask on, stand 6 feet apart, and vote. Y'all going out to leave now. Y'all want to get your hair done. Aleia got some money in her pocket. Y'all getting her hair done. Y'all getting y'all hair done. Y'all going out to the salon. Y'all going to get your nails done. All that good stuff. All right.
Yes.
Go. Now, as soon as this COVID-19 over, I'm going on Black Lives Matter Boulevard. That's where I'm going.
All right. Okay.
I'm going to Black Lives Matter Plaza. I'm going to Black Lives Matter Plaza.
Right.
Right. Did y'all see that thing that painted the whole street? Lean to the right. Black Lives Matter. That is the kind of I forget the DC mayor's name, but that's the kind of petty I want to be. That's the kind of petty I want to be. I don't think I'm petty. That's the kind of petty I'm trying to be. Not president's address. 1600 Black Lives Matter Plaza.
All right now. Won't he do it? Won't he do it?
That is my kind of petty. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
And by the way, this will be archived on our page, so you can go back and look at it later. Thank you so much for being with us. This has been thank you for joining us for the Mayoral Forum. This has been Real Talk for the Christian Walk, and we are out.
Bye.
Hey.